You said it wasn't good enough, but still we're trying one more time.
Wow, what an inspirational day it's been. I cannot believe there is anybody in the room that hasn't been inspired by what they've heard today. The speakers, we've heard from Jane, Ozma, Denise, all the recognitions, the people with recognitions. You know, nobody can be left in any doubt that this business works. You've just seen it. We've seen it. What I want to do is share with you a few thoughts on what I think is really important, and that is how you can make this business work for you. Because although it's evident that it works for so many people, although it's evident that people can make life-changing amounts of money from the business, it's also true that many, many people who sit in this room for the very first time get inspired by what they've seen, go away full of excitement and warmth and energy, and yet don't achieve the kind of things those people that we've watched walk across this stage achieve. What's the difference? And the title of my slot is called Planning. And in a way, that's what makes the difference. But it's not just planning. It's about how you plan. It's about understanding what that actually means. Because so many of us, when we first start, pay lip service to the idea of planning, but don't understand its real importance. Do you know why so many people fail to achieve their dreams in this business? It's because they don't know what to do. Now, of course, they know what to do. They know that what they need to do is get some information in front of somebody about the business or the products, invite them to some event, have them see the bigger picture, help them to get started. They know what they need to do, but they don't know what they need to do today. And that's because they haven't thought about what they need to do today, before today. And so what happens is you drift through today thinking, oh, I must get my business started. I must start talking to people. Oh, and then you start worrying because you're not filling your time with the activity that's going to propel you forward through the marketing plan. And then today finishes and tomorrow comes and tomorrow becomes today. And because we haven't thought about what we're going to do today, before today, we don't know what we're going to do today. And so what we do, instead of doing the stuff we need to be doing, is spend a lot of time prevaricating, thinking about what we could be doing, thinking about what other people must be doing to achieve the things they're achieving. Because you know, that's something that I've observed happens. You see so many people walking across this stage, achieving their goals, achieving big goals. We just heard from several people the size of their checks in a relatively short space of time. And my guess is some people were really excited by that and inspired by that. And others, and you know who you are, thought, oh, why not me? And my guess is because as each day arrives, you don't know what your mission is for that day. And because you don't know what the mission is for that day, you spend your time lolling around, thinking about what may be, dreaming about what might happen, but not having a proper plan of action that's going to deliver the results. You've heard a lot of people on this stage today in their testimonials talking about doing the business in the nooks and crannies of their lives. You hear that quite a lot. And that's because we all lead busy lives. All of us have 24 hours worth of stuff in our lives. Every single one of us. And when those nooks and crannies arrive, if you haven't decided in advance what actions you're going to be taking in those few moments, possibly 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there, time to make one call there, instead of applying yourself to putting the plan in action, then the time just drifts away. You spend it doing something else, washing the dishes, talking to somebody about nothing, gazing into space. And it's because we haven't applied ourselves properly to planning. You know, if you were to get your 2 weeks holiday for the year and you arrived at the first day off and you hadn't actually planned where you were going to go, but you expected to have a fabulous time in some exotic location, and suddenly on that day arrives your holiday and you think, oh, what am I going to do? Maybe I need to get a hotel and maybe get some air flights or book a car or something. Are you going to have a great time? No. The time will just drift by and you will feel depressed because you didn't make the most of the allocated time. And you won't have those memorable moments. That's why most people spend time planning their holiday, because it's the one time of year most people look forward to. Most people in our society spend more time planning their annual holiday than they do in planning their life. What I want to share with you this afternoon is a few thoughts on how we can take away what we have learnt today from all these wonderful people and make sure that we make the most of what we've learnt, make the most of the insights that we've gleaned, make the most of the opportunity that has revealed itself to us today. If I can have the first slide, Paul, please. This I have heard many, many times. It's in the front cover of many books about planning. It's become a cliche in our industry. But you know, cliches become cliches because people repeat them a lot. And the reason people repeat them a lot is because they recognize that there is some profound truth in a simple phrase like this. And the reality is, if you fail to plan, then effectively you're planning to fail. And we need to learn how to plan effectively, because it's important to make the most of the 24 hours we have in our own day, or the 30 minutes we've got left after everybody else has taken their bit of our 24 hours. It's important to apply that. But for duplication to work, and our business is based on the principle of duplication, we need to know how to help a new person plan their business. We need to know how to help them plan their very first day, their very first week, their very first month, their very first recognition, their very first international travel incentive. We need to know how to help them to plan so that the people we are introducing are achieving the things they want to achieve. Because if the people that we are introducing are achieving the things they want to achieve, then we're achieving the things we want to achieve too. But if we haven't learnt the skills of planning, then how are we going to teach them how to do that? If we haven't learned how to sit down with somebody and help to show them how they can build a business in just a few short hours a week, if they apply themselves properly, if we can't show them that, we won't inspire them with that. If we don't inspire them with that, then when today arrives for them, guess what will happen? They won't know what to do today. And if they don't know what to do today, guess what? They're not going to do anything. And so it doesn't matter how good a sponsor you are, if you can't help your person to plan and use that planning to propel them into action, then you're not going to build a massive business, because we need to focus our people on taking those first steps, because everybody's scared. All of us are. All of us wonder, can I do this? We're fearful of the consequences, fearful of what people will think. We need to get over that. We need to discover that actually this business works if we do it, if we get started. And so through planning, we can help our people get started quickly. Can I have the next slide, please, Paul? So we use this word planning. And I want to just drill down into the word a little bit, because we use the word and often we sit down and go through the manual and it's like ticking boxes. It's a brilliant piece of kit, is that First Steps to Manager manual. It has evolved following years of all of us refining and developing. And what we have now with that First Steps to Manager manual is the best tool that all of us as leaders have ever used in order to sit down and help somebody get started. But often it's a filling in the blanks without really getting into somebody's heart. So I want to talk about what a planning meeting needs to have in it. And the most important thing a plan needs to have is a list of the actions you're going to take. It's the actions that are going to deliver the results. And if we have effectively a list of things we are going to do today, a list of things we're going to do tomorrow, a list of things we're going to do the day after, and we know the results that we can expect from doing those things, then we have a plan of action. And when those nooks and crannies arrive, we know how we're going to spend our time. We know what to focus on in order to move our business forward. We know how to help our person to do that. Can I have the next slide, please, Paul? So we need to understand some principles about how to use this manual, how to coach this very first critical planning meeting. But we also need to remember that it's not just a one-meeting thing. It's not just about filling in the spaces in the book, giving somebody the book, letting them go away, and hoping for the best. It's about ourselves having the discipline of a regular business plan, a monthly business plan, a weekly business plan. We call this a 7-day plan. Do you know why we call it a 7-day plan? Because it is a plan for 7 days. Isn't that amazing? The reason why we call it a 7-day plan is if we call it a weekly plan, you'd be amazed how many people try and stretch a week to 8 days, 9 days, 10 days. And they need to do that because in order to fit 7 days of work in, they need to take the first 3 off. Lots of people do that. If you call it a week's plan, then it'll stretch. 7-day plan with the activities planned for 7 days, and you do 4 of them in a month, then that will give you the structure so that you know the things that you need to do and the time that you're going to do them in. Let's have the next slide, please, Paul. So there are 2 tools that we need to use. And you've seen Volume Map on several of the presentations today. Isn't that interesting how the people who are successful have learned how to volume map? Of course, we use the manual when we start, but as we build a team, we need to expand on that and analyze our own business, and we need to learn volume mapping. Now, volume mapping is something that you will learn from one of the mentors in your upline. I want to just pick apart what I just said. I said, from one of the mentors in your upline. If you're brand new and you've just sponsored your first person, you really can't start shouldering the responsibility of teaching them something you haven't yet put into practice yourself. Of course, as a brand new sponsor, you can do the most important thing, and that is you can encourage the person. Give them hope. But if you don't really understand the tracks to run on, I think it's really important for you to work alongside your new person and introduce them to somebody in your upline. It could be your sponsor, it could be their sponsor, who does know what they're doing. And you will learn very quickly by observing not only the things that happen in the business plan, but the way the interaction happens. The way that you drill down into what somebody wants, you will observe that, and that will give you confidence when it comes to doing your own as your confidence and your competence grows. Don't expect yourself to be competent straight away. I have seen a lot where people are brand new in the business and they set themselves up as some kind of mentor, and they can't because they haven't got the right knowledge yet. Don't put yourself under that kind of pressure. Go on a journey together with your downline and build your confidence. As you do their volume mapping with your upline mentor and you do your volume mapping, you'll learn how to do this and you'll be able to work together as a team much more effectively. My sponsor was really smart in this. He set a brilliant example. I was the very first person he sponsored. And he said to me, Andy said, I believe in this business, I know it's going to work, but I don't have a clue in what I'm doing. I need to introduce you to my sponsors. And fortunately for me, his sponsors were John Curtis and Jane Leach. And I went and I worked with them, and they showed me, at the same time as they were showing John, my sponsor, how to plan a business, how to structure the activity. What I learned from that was that John Burroughs had managed to do something that most of us don't do, and that is he hadn't become burdened by his own ego. He had recognized his limitations. He wanted to learn, but most importantly, he wanted success, and so he knew he needed to enroll the people who would be most likely to help him. So don't feel that you need to know all this. I'm not going to go through the detail of how to build a volume map. You will learn that when you work closely with the person who is already doing it in their business. All I want to do is give you an idea that, one, the first planning meeting that comes from your First Steps to Manager manual leads into these volume mapping skills. Can we have the next slide, please, Paul? I want to show you what a business plan needs to consist of. Anatomy is about the bare bones of something. So this is the bare bones of a business plan. And this is the way the First Steps to Manager business planner is structured. And it's also the way every business plan needs to be structured. The first thing we need to know is, where do we want to get to? It's really quite simple. If you're going to go on a journey, you need to know what your destination is. If I go to the railway station and I'll say, I want a train ride, to the guy, do they still have ticket counters? It's ages since I've been on a train. But you know, you say, I want to go on a journey. What's the first question he's going to say? Where do you want to go? Doesn't matter, I just want to go on a journey. At this point, he's glad he's got that perspex thing in between us, isn't he? Because he is thinking, this guy's crazy. He's getting his money out, he wants to go on a journey, but he doesn't know where he wants to go. How can I help him? That would be sane. Nobody would go and say, I want a ticket. Where do you want to go? It doesn't matter. None of us would do that. But yeah, when we sit down in our business, we don't think about where we want to go. This is the most important thing. Now, if it's your first plan, we need to think about where we want to get to. Where we are is right at the beginning of the journey. But if it's your 10th month in the business, you also need to know where you are now. So we need to know where we are in terms of case credits, the structure of our business, the number of people in our business. We need to know where we are now, where we want to be by the end of the period that we're planning for. So goals are the most important thing. And there is a whole section, if we have a look at the next slide, there's a whole section in the First Steps to Manager where we can actually start to talk about our goals. Now, this can feel quite a personal thing. And a novice distributor with their first person can shy away from really talking about somebody's dreams and desires. Often this is a tearful moment. But it needs to be a tearful moment because your new person needs to connect with really what they want in life. Because I can absolutely guarantee that at some stage in those first few months in the business, you're going to hit a rocky patch. Everybody does. And you need to know why you're doing the business when you hit that rocky patch, because it's that's going to propel you through it. So we need to talk about our income goals. How much money do I want from this business in 1 month, in 3 months, in 6 months, in 12 months? And then longer term, maybe 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, depending on what long term means for you. And then we need to talk about, what do we want to do with that money? What difference is that money going to make in your life? And I would encourage you to spend some time with this. If it's your plan, spend some time with it. If you're planning with a new person, spend some time with it. Talk about it. Talk about their dreams. Have them do a dream book. When somebody first suggested a dream book to me, I thought, that is so childishly pathetic. I am a grown man. I have a lot of business experience, and you want me to start cutting pictures out of a magazine and sticking them in a scrapbook? In fact, that's sort of how the conversation went between me and Jane. And Jane's response was, first of all, there's the look, and she said, yes, that's exactly what I want you to do. And I thought, okay then. Was that her? Did she come there? Yeah. What? How did I know that was? Did she give the look? You wouldn't have laughed like that if she'd have given the look, I promise you that. I've got lots more stories about Jane, so if she does that again, maybe I'll start introducing some of them. I did this exercise. And do you know what? It changed my life. Getting those magazines, cutting those pictures, sticking in a book, suddenly gave me a vocabulary, an internal vocabulary to start thinking about, how do I want my life to go? And once I got that, I could put some timelines on these ideas and images which were getting more and more concrete. And once I'd done that, I could see how much money I would need to live this kind of life and have these kinds of things. And once I'd done that, I knew where I needed to be in the Forever Marketing Plan in order to get that kind of money, in order to live the life that I wanted. And once I knew where I needed to be in the Forever Marketing Plan, I could break that down into the number of case credits I wanted, and put an action plan together of what I need to do this month, next month, this week, next week, in order to start moving towards these things that had been just dreams before. Spend the time with your people talking about what are often dismissed as these soft things. These soft things are the most powerful things that will help you to build a business. Of course, we need to then understand how to link the marketing plan to our goals and dreams, but we need to spend time on this. In those first planning meetings, we might actually not get much further than this. Because there is no point in having a list of things to do if your person hasn't bought into doing the things on that list. Obviously, many people will want a list of things to do. But the most important thing is that we don't skip this. Because if we have a list of things we do, we need our new person to want to go away and do these things. To want to start building a business. So let's have a look at the next slide, please, Paul. So you remember the slide a few slides ago, there were 4 elements to the business plan, the first of which is goals. Then 2 other elements are the kinds of activity that we need to do. 2 of those is we need sales and we need sponsoring. So you need to decide how you're going to get your sales. You need to decide what it is you're going to do in order to get sales. And it's okay saying, well, I'll use the products and talk to people, but the point is that when that nook or cranny arrives in your life and you haven't actually decided what you're going to do, you might just be so vague it doesn't result in any sales. So we need to know. And it's all in the planning manual. About launches. Launches are a brilliant way of making sure that you can talk about the products that in a way that will result in sales in front of people. That's really all it's about. Are you going to get on the Clean 9? We heard a great story earlier about somebody being on the Clean 9, posting their results from days 3, 6, and 9 on Facebook, and you heard the number of sales that resulted in. We all heard that. And yet, and it was an inspirational story, and my guess is everybody at that moment thought, I could do that, and everybody could do that. But I bet only 10% of the people in this room will actually go away and get on the Clean 9. So you need to decide whether you're in that 90% that thinks, what a great idea. Or are you in the 10% of people who thinks, what a great idea, I'm going to do that, I'm going to put it in my 7-day plan, and I'm going to do it today. So there are loads of different things we can do. We can have coffee mornings. There's all sorts of different things. You can go through them there. The manual gives you a structure in order to do that. We talk about launches in great detail. Spend a bit of time going through this. Pick out the things that you want to do. And when you're working with a new person, pick out the things that they want to do and put them in the diary. Because if they're not diarized, they ain't going to happen. Let's have the next slide, please. So we need to break down our sales activity into weekly activities, daily activities. The idea, I'm going to start Clean 9 tomorrow, and on day 3 I'm going to post about it. On day 6 I'm going to post about it. I'm going to book my launches, and my launches are booked a week on Tuesday and a week on Wednesday. I always think 2 nights is a good idea to book your launches because half the people you know won't be able to make it on a Tuesday and half won't be able to make it on a Wednesday. So why not do 2, and then you can get everybody there in the same week. But you need to get them in the diary. If they're not in the diary, they just remain a theory. And theoretical launches do not deliver case credits. But if you've got a deadline to meet, then you know you need to invite people. You know you need to coach your new person to invite people. You need to know that it's important that they ring everybody, speak to everybody personally, not just stick invitations through the doors of their neighbors. You know, you need to work with them, and if you've got a date and a deadline, then you are more likely to do that. What we're going to do is put them all in the diary and also put them on a list and estimate the case credits we're going to get. And this is where you will need your upline. You will need your upline to give you some idea of what you can expect in terms of case credits from each of these events. And then you add up all the case credits and you ask yourself, you add up all the case credits you've got planned for the month, then you ask yourself, is it enough? Because one thing I have learned, if it gets to 11 o'clock on the 31st of the month and you haven't got enough case credits, it's a tough time to do anything about it. Whereas if you thought about it on the 1st of the month and you add it all up and you recognize you're 3 case credits short, then at this stage you've got a whole month to schedule something else and to do something else and to make sure your time is put towards ensuring you get those additional case credits. That's what planning's all about. It's about foreseeing the problems before they arise. So if you haven't got enough case credits, schedule more stuff. Can we have the next slide, please? So let's have a look at sponsoring. So we know we need to talk to people. We know we need to get information in front of us. Jane did a brilliant presentation about the cycle when she launched the new materials. You know, you could do a one-to-one, you could do an online one-to-one, you could send somebody to a website, you could send somebody a DVD. Bring them to a business presentation. We have all these tools to show somebody an overview of the business, to show somebody an overview of what the opportunity is. We have loads of opportunities to do that. But most people who join the business don't avail themselves of the opportunities that are there. Most people don't contact half the people on their list, 1/10 of the people on their list, anybody on their list. And that's because they haven't planned to do it. They haven't planned in detail who they're going to speak to, when are they going to speak to them, what are they going to say to them. And when those nooks and crannies arrive, you think, oh, I want to sponsor somebody. Who am I going to sponsor? Oh, I know I should do the list, but I haven't got time now, I'll do it later. And you end up ringing the same 3 people that you rang last week who said no to you then, in the hope that they've changed their mind because you think they'd be brilliant. No. You need to be strategic about it. We need a list. And if your person hasn't got a list, spend a bit of time working with them to develop the list. If you haven't got a list, do a list. If you have some emotional or psychological hang-up about doing a list, let me give you my advice. Get over it. Get on with it. You know, this is a network marketing business. We need to identify our network in order to start marketing. It's the fundamental. I'm amazed how many people don't do a list. Now, at this very moment, Jane is going to be smirking around the back. Because when I first showed up to my meeting with John and Jane, I had 7 people on my list. And there were one person I thought would join, and he did join, actually. But he only joined last year, which was 19 years after I first approached him. Pete Harris, he was the first person I approached. I would be sure he would be my first diamond manager. Great guy, good friend, brilliant, brilliant businessman. And he joined last year and done nothing since. So, and he's going to see this on YouTube. Hi, Pete. So, you know, as the people on my list, the other 6 people were the ones that I didn't think were that good, but I didn't really care about their opinions anyway. So I didn't feel intimidated by approaching them. Isn't that amazing what we do? The others, I was worried about what they would think of me doing this kind of wacky thing. I had to just get over it and get on with it. And that is one of the things that all of us who've achieved success have had to do. It's one of the things we have in common. We've all had our hang-ups, we've all had our resistance, we've all had our inhibitions, but at one point we have had to arrive at deciding we're just going to get over it and get on with it. So help your person to do that. And once we've got the list, we need to identify who we're going to talk to in the next 7 days. So we need to go through the list and identify these people and talk about the individual and talk about their kind of profile, what their life is like, what their challenges are, what their hot buttons might be, what it might be about the forever living opportunity that will help them to move their life forward. And then we're going to decide on some words. And there's loads of ideas in the manual that you can go through. Get my CD, watch all the videos on YouTube. There's loads of ideas on what you can say to people. To be honest, it's not an exact science. Essentially, we're going to call somebody and I think you would like this because it's going to give you X, Y, and Z. If it's a 20-something, 30-something mother of toddlers who's worried about the fact that she's going to have to go back to work full-time, ring up and say, I think I've found a way for you to develop a full-time income and still be around your kids full-time. If it's somebody who's 50 and worrying about their pension, I think I've found a way for you to get that pension you're worried about. I don't know if it's for you, obviously only you can decide that. But I'm going to send you some information, or I want you to come to a meeting, or I want you to meet somebody, or whatever you've decided you're going to do. In that meeting, in that planning meeting, you need to be deciding what the next step will be, so that when you ring, you know the words you're going to use and what the next step is you are going to invite them to do. Because that's all we're doing, guys. We are inviting people to take a look at something that we think could change their life. That's all we're doing. I was at a Facebook exchange with Rosie. Rosie's somewhere in the room today. And she was saying, I hate asking people for favors. And it was holding her back from calling people. We're not asking anybody for a favor. We have the greatest opportunity in the world. They're not just words. Do you know why I use those words? We have the greatest opportunity in the world. Here's why I say we have the greatest opportunity in the world. Because we have the greatest opportunity in the world. And we're going to ring somebody up. Or we're going to message them on Facebook, because that's fine too. You know, just have Natalie. I don't know if you read Natalie's article in Jan's and Natalie's article in the magazine. Read it. It's brilliant. And as Natalie says, we need to use the most appropriate channel of communication, the one that we use with that person. Normally, if you normally speak to somebody at work, don't not talk to them all day and then ring them up when you get home at night. That would just be weird. Talk to them face to face at work. If you normally speak to somebody on Facebook, have a conversation on Facebook. Now, there is an art to having a conversation. It's not just sending them an advert on Facebook. You need to differentiate between sending an advert and having a conversation, but you can learn these things. And maybe you'll discuss that at the planning meeting. At the end of the planning meeting, you need to have a list of the people you are going to be calling over the next 7 days. It can be as many people as you like. But I personally think it needs to be a minimum of 15, even if you are very, very part-time. Here's why. If it's fewer than that, you're just not going to get in the groove. You are just going to worry about it more than do it. So it needs to be at least 15. It's 2 calls a day or 2 messages a day. But if you're speaking to people on Facebook, then you can contact more than 15 people in a 7-day period. And I hear from people, how do these people who are moving through the plan so quickly, how do they do it? What are they doing? It's really simple. They do a list and they contact more people each day than the ones who are moving through the marketing plan slowly. And they did that because they put a plan together in order to move forward. So it's all in the planning manual, and we need to get used to doing this every 7 days. I find Sunday nights is a great time to do a 7-day plan. And if you've got a new person, or if you're working with your upline, then I would be getting into the 7-day plan groove very, very quickly. You can do it online, you can do it face-to-face, do it by phone. I think it's good to do it online, to use Skype or something like that, because then you can draw your circles and you can hold them up to the camera and people can see and you can have an interaction. Or you can do it over a coffee. Let's have the next slide. Please, Paul. Paul? Well, great. So, what you do need to know is how many people you intend to sponsor this month. Not how many people you intend to sponsor in your life. Because the longer you set a deadline, the longer you've got to mess around before you get started. I've learned that. I've learned that from self-analysis, because that is what I'm like. If I can put something off, I will. I have had to learn, if I want to get explosive growth in my business, I need TNT. If I want to get explosive growth, I need to be working today, not tomorrow. TNT, today, not tomorrow. And if you only take one note today, I would write down TNT, today, not tomorrow. So we need to know how many people you intend to sponsor this month. How many people do you need to contact in order to get enough people in your pipeline in order to sponsor that number of people? Talk to your upline if you're not sure what those numbers are. List the contacts that you're going to make. Plan it in detail. Plan each personalized conversation, whether it's on Facebook or by phone. Put it down and then stick to your plan. Let's have the next slide, Paul, please. So we've talked about our goals. We've talked about how sales are going to impact on those goals, achieving those goals, how sponsoring is going to impact on achieving those goals, the case credits we're going to get from sales and sponsoring that are going to move us through the marketing plan. There's a further area we need to work on, and that is ourself. Because none of us are the finished article. We need to motivate ourselves. Listen, a lot of people say to people in my team, oh, so lucky to have Andy Waring as your upline, as your sponsor. I can tell you what's in their head when somebody's saying that. They're thinking, you must be joking. He doesn't do anything for us, except to ensure that they know they are responsible for their own motivation, for their own personal development. They are taking responsibility. And I do that because it helps them to achieve. And also it makes my life a hell of a lot easier. And that's why I joined this business. So you need to be responsible for your own motivation, your own personal development. How are you going to do that? Well, I think Forever events are the best way. So you've got upline team events, you've got area events, you've got success days, you've got your local business presentation. Your local business presentation is there so that you can stay in the game. Because that's the hardest part of our business as you get into it. It's keeping your head and your heart in the game. And you do that by attending events and going along and meeting people and taking the inspiration from them. So go to all these things. There are other sources of information. These days we've got all the videos on YouTube. There are all the audios. There are the CDs. There are loads of good things. If you are brand new in the business today, talk to your sponsor or your upline and ask them which book you should take away with you today. There are some brilliant ones to read and to be motivated by. Let's have the next slide, please. I'm going to give you a very quick example of planning, of how you have several plans running at the same time. So here we've got a 5-month plan to manager. 10 case credits, 20, 30, 50, 70. You'll notice it's very similar to Jane's from earlier. It's because we all work to the same plan. Let's have a look at the next slide, please. So in month 1, beginning of the month, we're on 0 case credits. We want to build 10 case credits, so we've got a base month for supervisor. This is our goal for this month. Our goal for 5 months' time is to go manager, but for this month we need a goal to do with the marketing plan. We're going to plan our retailing activity, our sponsoring activity. We're going to decide which events we're going to go to, which trainings we're going to go to, how we're going to fill the nooks and crannies of our life in order to ensure that we deliver 10 case credits. Next slide, please, Paul. Because at the beginning of the next month, we start at 10 case credits. And so now we're going to plan how we're going to move on to add to that 20 case credits this month, and so we qualify as supervisor. And we're going to plan exactly the same things. What are our goals? What are our sales going to be? What is our sponsoring going to be? And of course, you've got people in your team now, so you're going to work with them on their goals, their sales, their sponsoring, their motivation levels, their personal development. And then the next month, our goal is to put 30 case credits in the tank this month. Because we started having got to supervisor in the previous month, and now we're going to put a base month in place for assistant manager. And we know that we need to plan our retailing activities, our sponsoring activities. We need to plan it in detail. Have you noticed it's exactly the same? It's the same stuff. You're doing it. You're teaching your people how to do it, how to decide what your goals are, what your sales are going to be, what your sponsoring is going to be, and how you're going to keep your head and heart in the game, how you're going to keep yourself motivated, and how you're going to help your people to do that. It's all in that manual. It's all in that manual, and we just need to make sure we are doing it each month. Let's have the next month. So this month, we've got 30 case credits in our tank from last month. This month, our goal is to qualify as an assistant manager. And we do the same stuff, our retailing activities, sponsoring activities, what events we're going to go to. We diarise it. We help our team to do exactly the same. We've also put a base month in place for manager, as well as qualifying for assistant manager. Let's have a look at the next slide, please, Paul. So this month, we plan to qualify. We do 70 case credits. Now, it doesn't matter whether it's a 3-month plan for a car plan, or whether it's a 12-month plan for Eagle, or a 12-month plan for Chairman's Bonus. I'd advise a 10-month plan for Chairman's Bonus, by the way, or an 8-month plan, but it could be up to 12 months. But it doesn't matter what the longer-term plan is. We need a plan this month to know exactly where we're going to be at the end of the month so that we are closer to our goal. This is how we achieve our mid-term goals. Let's have the next slide, please, Paul. So it's really important to plan your time. And here's a post I took from Steph Barnsby's Facebook page. And this is... She posted this to her team, and this is her diary. And she blocks out, when she does her 7-day plan on a Sunday night, she blocks out in colour the areas of time she's allocating to certain activities. And in green there, that's her forever work. But also, really important to her, is her family time. That's the pink stuff. And the orange stuff is her personal development, whether she's going to trainings or reading, perhaps. And then the stuff in yellow is the other stuff. gym and shopping she's got there. You know, the stuff that we do in our life. I'll just give you an idea of that because it's such an easy thing to do. But the most important thing to do is get a diary. So if you're going to do 2 notes today, remember TNT was the most important note. Second is get a diary and take it to a planning meeting. I'm amazed how few people do that because it's about planning our activity, planning our time. Let's have the next slide, Paul, please. You can achieve anything you want in this business. I hope you have been inspired by the stories that you've heard today. I want you, though, to know that those people who have been up here today did not achieve that by accident. They did it because they planned their activity every day, every week, every month. They planned their activity. They planned their time so that they knew that they would, when they were going to be doing that activity. And that's what delivered the case credits. That's what delivered the results. And that's what has delivered some of these life-changing incomes that you're hearing about. Let's have the next slide, please, Paul. If you fail to plan, you're effectively planning to fail. I really don't want you to fail. So take this planning seriously, understand what it's about, and make the most of the opportunity that you've got here. I hope that's helped. I hope you found it of some value. Thanks for your time. Thanks for listening.